We're in the final preparations for the BVRT 200 and we're about 13 hours from race start. So I'm going to show you all the gear we've got hanging around here ready for later this evening. We've got towels, some jumpers, and I've got 6 pairs of shoes. For this weekend, I've got 2 of the Exodus Saucony trail shoes, which are the comfiest shoes that I use for ultra running. I've got a pair of Peregrines, 2 pairs of road shoes, and then also a pair of the Saucony Edge, which is the carbon plate trail runner, which is half a size bigger for later in the race when my feet swell a bit, if they swell a bit. We've got some of our nutrition, some S-Fuels Life Bars, Zone 5 gels, and the Zone 4 race mix, as well as the Zone 2 mix electrolyte. We're running with 2 packs with double ups of all the mandatory gear. That way, through the aid stations, all we have to do is change over the pack. We don't have to worry about adding and subtracting bladders and whatnot. Just change over the pack and off we go. Then all these boxes, we have a range of different gear. So wet weather jackets, knock-around sunnies, medications and creams in there. We've got all the foot care gear in there, some basic first aid, socks, shorts, singlets. I think it's highly unlikely that I end up wearing any singlets. It's going to be freezing cold. Shirts, and then some warm weather gear, some base layers, hats, buffs, beanies, and then this little pile is everything that I will be putting on for the first section tonight. The other things that we have here, just charging all sorts of bits and pieces. So there's our crew handbook that I'll talk you through soon. I'm charging watch, head torches and batteries, charging a power bank, Theragun, and then that's some of the electronics gear and head torches. The other thing that we haven't done yet is getting all the food and other bits and pieces, and then when my dad gets here, who's crew chief later, we'll put all that stuff in the esky, put all that in the ute, and then we'll be sorted, ready to go for hopefully 40 hours of running on the BVRT. So in preparation for an event like this, when we're out there for 200 miles, a really long time, with crew, some complexities in the nutrition, in the checkpoints, and a whole range of things, I put together a pretty significant crew handbook to help those guys and girls help me get through. And what it does, it just clears my mind. Once I have the plan nutted out, then it's really easy for me just to relax and focus on my running from one checkpoint to the other, knowing that everyone is on board with the plan. The other important thing though with the plan is to recognise that the crew need to be really flexible. Things won't go to plan the entire time, of course. We go out there for such a long time. So it's important that the crew are capable and ready to be flexible and change things along the way, and then have those discussions with me if needed, if things need to change. But a couple of key things that we include in this plan. The first is just the team and their roles. I make sure that their roles, their schedule is really clear and they know exactly what they need to do when they need to do it. I also include some of the key notes, some of the key rules that they need to know, just to make sure that they don't interfere with any of the other runners or make any silly mistakes that might end up with a disqualification or something else for me. The schedule of events, this is both for me and the crew, so we know exactly what's happening, when it's happening, and we can make sure that we stay on track, and then accommodation where we're staying. But the crux of the plan is this section, with every single stage, with distance, the elevation of those stages, approximately how long I've allocated to each of those stages, including the pace that I need to run to come in at that specific time. Any notes on the stage that I need to be aware of, whether it's technical or whether it's exposed and open or whatever it might be. And then I include the time that I plan to get in there, how long I plan to be in the checkpoint, and how long or what time I plan to get out. And then my crew along the way will make notes of that time in and that time out to help keep me accountable, to help keep them accountable, and then we can track that. The other important part of that too, we have a message group with everyone in the crew. So when I leave each checkpoint, my crew need to send a message to everyone in that group so they know exactly where I am, how I'm going, and then they can adjust what they need to do along the way if needed. I also include into those stages the possible nutrition that I need my crew to have ready for me. So for this case, it's just some water and a Vegemite wrap. That's pretty early on, so they don't need to have heaps of stuff ready. Any equipment, if I'm changing equipment, and just having things there in case I need it, and then any other logistics. So for example, for this one, a 3-minute checkpoint, very quick, no sitting, and we're just running straight through essentially. In the crew notes, the stations, the checkpoints, where they're starting from, where they're getting to, how long they need to drive from one spot to the other, and then who's crewing, who's pacing for that particular stage. So for that first stage, Dad's crew, there's no other pacers, no other crew, he's doing the first 8 or so hours himself. And at the bottom, the total time and the total distance, so that we can keep track of that along the way. The final thing that I've kept that I've put into this year for the 200 mile that I haven't done previously is nutrition notes. And that's more been for me as I plan this out to make sure I know I'm getting exactly what I need aid station to aid station and keeping up with calorie intake. It was one of the mistakes I made last year, is that I think I hit some nutritional lows, and some of the foods that I was eating probably led to that as well. So using some more real foods this time, as well as sports nutrition from S-Fuels, and making sure I'm getting enough throughout. So there's one of those for every single stage. But as I said earlier, yeah, I have a really detailed plan, so I can trust that my crew will hit all those marks along the way, but they need to be flexible as well. The next important part in this plan is the stage-by-stage breakdown. So I put together this one pager which has every stage, the time of day that I'm in and out, the total distance, the total race time, how long it is to the next checkpoint, how fast I need to be running to the next checkpoint, who's crewing, who's pacing, whether there's a swap in crew and paces there. So, that kind of gives us the overview of what we're doing when we're doing it. And then I break that down into a schedule for each of my crew members, so they know exactly where they need to be, when they need to be there, what their job is along the way. So there's schedule there for Dad, who's my crew chief, schedule there for Salome, who's crewing and also pacing. Same for Cynthia, Salome's sister, who's crewing and pacing. Joss, one of the athletes that I coach, she's crewing and pacing. And then finally, my mum, who's coming to help out with our girls and get them around to see me along the way, which will be great too. The final thing we've got there is a schedule for an extra car, because we're just getting people out and about along that rail trail, and so we need some transport for that. The final two things, nutrition notes. So I put in the back of this crew handbook all the nutrition that I'm likely to use at some point along the way, and exactly what I'm taking in terms of calories, carbohydrates, fats, protein, sodium, and then any notes as to how to prepare that so that my crew can have that ready. And finally, my gear, nutrition, and clothes checklist. So a highly detailed plan, as I said, but what it means is it just allows me to take my mind off everything else other than just running from checkpoint to checkpoint, and I can trust that my crew have it all under control. And the only other thing that I've done in this last week to make sure that that's under control is had a meeting with my crew via Zoom on Tuesday night, so we could go through it. And then this evening when Dad gets in too, we'll make sure that we cover those things as well.